Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Alone podcast. Today, our guest is Mary Kate. Mary Kate was a participant on season 2 of Alone. It's funny, when I reached out to Mary Kate, she was very kind and quickly agreed to be on the show. Then she also kind of gave the disclaimer of, well, I wasn't on Alone very long, and but which is true, but we're excited to have Mary Kate with us today. And the reason why she wasn't on the show for very long, and to kind of jog your memory of who we're talking to today, is we got to see a lot of the inside of Mary Kate's hand. She had an unfortunate run-in with an axe blade very early in her experience on Alone, and that took Mary Kate out. But Mary Kate, thank you for coming on and being willing to talk and share a little bit about yourself and help us get to know you a little bit better.
Yes, thank you for having me. Just so everyone knows, my hand is fully functional, just so you know. But thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's not funny. Maybe it's funny now.
It's funny to you.
when your season aired, right, and they're doing, and gosh, if you only watched the first few, maybe you don't remember a whole awful lot, but when Mary Kate's season first came out, right, they're showing all the promos, and like every single promo I felt like showed, someone's hand flayed wide open, and so, for the first, I think 3 episodes, we get to see the inside of this person's hand. And I remember like watching, you're like, oh no, those are the clothes. Like, so you can see like the person's clothes, and you can see you're working with an axe, and like, like as the viewer, you knew it was coming because of all the promo spots. And it was like, it was so anxiety ridden for me to watch, just because like I knew what was going to happen and I knew what I was going to watch, and I was not excited for it.
You're probably thinking to yourself, it's that girl that always talks a lot and doesn't pay attention. I got that a lot after the show. They're like, look, you shut up and paid attention to what you were doing. I was like, well, I'm out in the middle of nowhere talking to myself. How was I supposed to know that I was going to whack myself with an axe?
And to be fair,
so kind.
And to be fair, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but it's not like you were unexperienced with axes and sharp objects, and sometimes freak things happen.
It looks like I'm unexperienced, yes, but nope. I mean, I've used those sort of tools in everyday life, but we grew up cutting wood and having axes around and cutting kindling for the, I used to start the wood stove every morning and in our cabin in Montana in the woods, that was our heat source, and that's every morning. That was my job, was to get the fire going. So, I mean, I was fluid with those sorts of tools. It just doesn't look like it. Maybe a little out of practice is all.
Well, we do know that you know how to sharpen an axe, at least, right?
My dad does. My dad did that.
Ah.
Yeah, he takes all claim for that. Yes, he's very proud.
That's funny. Well, good job, Dad. That axe was mighty sharp.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. I was just watching. The girls wanted to watch it last night. We watched, and yeah, it's pretty funny to see. It looks like a nick, when it happens. It just looks like it's so quick. It's just a little nick, and that's it. But nope, it severed that tendon straight up to my elbow.
Yeah, when I watched it, it was kind of the same thing. I was like, oh man, like you just barely tapped it. I mean, you actually stopped the axe head. It looked like pretty well. You arrested it when you figured out what was happening, but it just gotcha. You mentioned that the tendon like severed. Did the tendon retract? Did they have to go in and like pull it down and do all that fun stuff?
Yeah, they did. And that clinic was they did a great job. We did travel. I can't remember the name of that little town. I wish I did, for the doctors, so I could give him some kudos. It's been so long, I haven't even thought about it. Anyway, no, they were amazing. He got us right in there, and I screamed bloody murder. You're awake through it all, and he had to extra cut the hand, so you're watching him like with scissors. It was just, oh God, scalpel and go in. But yeah, they did, and he had his nurse practitioner. All I can remember is she was wearing black Converse shoes, and I was like squeezing one of the helpers from the show that drove me out there. I mean, we were just, yeah, it was terrible. but they go in, and they go all the way up the arm. And he tried twice, and he just said, "Oh man, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to put you under. I mean, I can't get it." And he says, "But the bad thing about that is that you're going to lose function of your thumb because it's going to be too long of a period of time." And I looked at him and I said, "Go for it. Get it. Go get it." Oh. And he looked at me and he says, "Okay, third time's a charm. I'm going to give you my college best." And I said, "Go for it. Just go. I have to have my thumb, man. I'm still changing diapers. I got kids at home." So he did. He went in there and he dug down deep, and he finally was able to pull that tendon down. But it was quite a battle. So to all of you out there that wanted me to field dress my thumb because it looked like such a minor injury, I want you to know that it was a little bit more than that.
Yeah, we were talking. We were talking before we hit record, and you had mentioned that there was a bunch of highly skilled surgeons and wilderness first aid providers who felt like you easily could have handled that wound on your own.
Yes, they did. And that's fine. Everyone's, they don't get to see all of it, and they don't, people don't, and that's part of the show, And another part of the show that people really don't realize is that you are literally all alone. So when you're all alone, there are no producers, there are no cameramen, there's nothing out there, and something like that happens. The other thing, too, is that before we had this native ceremony, and it was really cool that they put on there, and I had this woman that came up to me who grew up in the area, and she said to me, "Whatever you do, do not break a leg or cut yourself." Or she says, "Oh, my God, they'll be on you like, they can hear that a mile away, the cougars or whatever." So here I am. So, we were watching it this morning, and Bone's like, "Who are you yelling for in the woods?" I said, "Well, the lady told me to make noise. Now I'm bleeding. I'm going into shock. And I'm just thinking I'm going to get eaten alive here before my rescue gets here."
Oh, man. So
how... I was doing a lot of screaming and, but a lot of that was to make noise. Like, "I'm alive. Don't come near me.
Yeah.
Leave me alone."
Well, we'll transition into other things here in a minute, but how long, how much time had elapsed from the time that you got the injury to the time when you landed in whatever clinic you were in and they were cranking on your arm trying to get your tendon reattached?
Well, the tendon reattachment didn't happen for quite a couple days, I think, a day or two, a day, something like that. If I can remember correctly, they took me to the hospital there in the town that we were staying in. And then from there, I had to go to a different clinic a couple hours away. It felt like a long time after I pressed the emergency button, but I couldn't tell if they were receiving the signal on that. Mm-hmm. And then, so it took a couple pushes. They don't show that, of course. They don't show all that. But I remember throwing my rescue satellite, and I think I threw it in the water. I don't know. I was just so frustrated.
Because you were in shock.
And I couldn't tell if they were getting my signal. And then I got a text message that came through that said, "Are you okay?" or something, or "Is this real?" or something. I can't remember. But and I was it's that old school typing, so it's like A, B, B, C, C, C,
Yeah.
So in order for me to type like, "Yes, this is an emergency," or anything, you had to keep hitting the buttons and then resend it and hope that you had a signal to resend a text.
With one hand.
Because that wasn't our normal way of, communicating. You're not allowed to text anybody. So, I was frustrated for a while, but it felt like it took a while for the boat to get out there to get me. Longer than but I knew because I flew out into my scene. So I knew that, wherever help was, actually, I think help was on the water because they got my signal while they were, I think, collecting footage at a different camp. So they were closer than having to come from town,
Yeah, so that was fortunate.
That was very fortunate, yes.
That's crazy. Well, we unless you've got anything else you want to say about your hand and that whole incident, we can shift gears and get away from that moment.
Yep, the moment has passed us.
All right. Well, now we all remember Mary Kate. We remember the inside of her hand quite well. So Mary Kate, we were kind of talking beforehand, but I was trying to track down where you've been, and it seems like you've kind of bounced a lot. So Montana, California, Alaska, Montana, Alaska, Montana. Where where do you claim? Where are you from, and where'd you grow up?
Where is my home? Okay, I'll give you the rush. Are you ready? Here it is. No, I was born in Chicago. I
Oh,
moved to Montana, northern Montana. Knoxon is a little town called Knoxon, Montana. When I was 3 years old, I grew up in Montana. Then we moved to eastern Montana when I was a freshman in high school. Then I went to college at Black Hills State University in Spearfish, South Dakota. And then from there, I moved to California, where I fought fires and worked on a construction crew. And then I moved to Alaska. That's it. That's what I know. I mean,
okay.
and then back to Montana, and then back to Alaska, and so bounce back and forth. Where's home? I would say that Montana's home. It's where all my values came from. It's where I was raised. It's a home is where your heart is right. So my parents are there. My family's all there. So Montana's my home. Alaska is my other home. My girls were raised here. So this is our new home.
Do you get the chance to get back to Montana very often?
I don't. I talked to you about this earlier. It's probably nobody's business, but I figure that sometimes the more you talk about it, the better off you are. I was in a domestic violence relationship with my youngest daughter, who's now 3. And so I packed up my bags. It had been a long time since I've been home, since the show, pretty much. But I packed up my girls and my bags with some clothes, and that was it. I lost everything and moved back to Montana to get back on my feet and get my girls safe away from that situation. So, yeah. Yeah, anyway.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I guess since we're there and since we went to that point in your history, I guess, do you have any advice if there's someone that is hearing this either for themselves or they know someone else that's in that type of a terrible situation? What have you learned, and what did you learn, and what would you tell someone if you're comfortable and willing?
One of the things I've learned for myself personally is to never lose yourself. Keep your job, keep your money, keep your family close, keep your friends close. Because when you lose all those things, when you're in a position that I was in and you lose your job, you have no money and you have no friends and you've been cut off from your family, there's nowhere to turn and you are literally lost. And the hole only gets deeper and deeper. So if you feel like that is a position that you're in or somebody else that you know, just walk out, don't look back, and just keep on walking. And you don't have to have money, and you don't have to have a job. You don't have to have any of those things. You just need yourself and your kids or whatever it is that you're protecting, and move, and somebody will help you. Somebody. That's my advice. Is just keep going.
Yeah, well, in the show notes, I'm going to link phone numbers and websites for help resources for domestic violence. Just so if you're there and you know someone, you can go to the show notes and quickly get a phone number somewhere to go. But you mentioned something really interesting there that I guess I've thought about it, but I've never really thought about it. I've never been in your situation, obviously. But you talked about how you didn't have anywhere or anyone or any finances to really even be able to get away. And I think there's probably a misconception or a misperception that, people just don't want to leave that relationship. They're so whatever that they don't want to go. But I mean, to your point, I mean, you might be in a situation where you literally feel like you can't because you don't have anyone or anywhere or any way to get there.
Yes, it's very scary. It's a very scary position to be in. But I think that people just need to realize that if you are in that situation, whatever it looks like, whether it's physical or mental, mental abuse is very real. It's just really important that you just keep your head up and go get help. Doesn't matter who it is. Walk into the police shelter or walk into the police station. Say, hey, help me. Like, I don't care how low you are, or not low, but I mean low as far as like the bottom of the hole. You know, you might be at the top of the hole, but don't get to the, if you're at the bottom of the hole, go somewhere, get some help. That's it. There's all kinds of resources out there to help you.
Good. And how are your girls doing, if I can ask that question? Is everyone's okay?
My oldest daughter is 10. She's doing fabulous. She's on the student council, voted in by her classmates. She's doing wonderful. Greta is a star reader. She's my 5-year-old. She was the baby when I was on the show. She's in 1st grade. She's doing fabulous. And my youngest daughter, Daly, she's a Spitfire. She's a lot of fun. And I work on a daily basis to keep her. She still has access to that situation that I previously talked about. So I'm working day and night to make sure that she is mentally and physically safe every day of my life. It's still very hard.
Well, I'm glad that they got a good mama bear.
Yeah, they got a good mama bear, and my older 2 girls have a great dad and stepmom, and we have very good family friends. I mean, we have a good network of people. I have great family, and my girls have great families. So everything's good. We're not victims. We are just moving forward.
Good on you. Well, this got really serious really fast between your hand and.
Sorry.
And then no, this is great. This is fantastic. I'm grateful that you're willing to open up and again, if you're in that situation, try and find a way, and we'll link some of those resources down below. But so you mentioned, right, you went to California when you were younger and did fire and construction, and for me, I'm super fascinated by the whole fire thing. So what made you decide? You woke up one day and said, what I want to do is wildland fire. How did that decision get made?
Oh, that's a funny story. No, I was at college, and I actually had a friend of mine who had moved from Wyoming to South Dakota, and he was the new captain on the fire crew there, the local fire crew in Spearfish. And he had talked about wildland fire, and he was on a hot shot crew, and he was this, and he just was so, the stories were always so exciting. So I decided, well, that's what I want to do. I want to try that for a summer job. I can do that. And so I looked into it. This is still back when they had paper applications, instead of computers. So it's very, anyway, that's a different story. But
recent history, just the other day.
Yes. So anyway, no, I applied. I said to him, I said, what's the best crew in the nation? He says, well, I'll be honest with you. The best crew in the nation is the Hobart Hotshots, the Tahoe Hotshots out of Camptonville, California. I said, well, that's the crew I want to be on. Anyway, so I did put an application in, but Hobart wouldn't, I have to have experience, obviously. So I ended up getting on an engine crew out of Downeyville, California for a season, Engine 32 out of Downeyville, which was right down the road from Camptonville.
Was that like was it like a BLM Forest Service crew, or was that like a
Forest Service? It was a Forest Service engine crew, yeah. So I spent a season on that crew, and then spent the winter working out and trying to stay in shape. And then I PT'd, or I went and visited over spring break the following year, the Hobart Hotshots, and then got offered a job fighting fire with Hobart. And that was, I did a season with Hobart, and I did not take my job back with Hobart because I tried to get on with a hotshot crew up in Fairbanks. And like I said, they went from paper application to computer application at this point, and I missed the boat 3 years in a row because my computer application didn't go through.
Oh, man.
So that was kind of the end of my fire career. So I love fire. It's very challenging. It's a lot of fun. It's the experience is tremendous. A lot of hard work. those boys, kudos to those men and women on the line. I'm telling you what, it's an amazing job.
Yeah, you kind of glossed over something a little bit ago, and maybe it deserves glossing over. But you mentioned you'd spent that winter kind of working out and getting in shape. And I kind of want to back up to that a little bit because there's just some memories that are pinging my mind. I think for the world to know, like you ran cross country, right? So it's not like you were a slouch or someone who wasn't like super in shape. I have a friend who he did wildland fire for quite a while. And I remember as he was, in the off season and he was prepping for fire season, he'd just post these pictures on Facebook or wherever, and he's a super fit, in shape kid, right? And he hikes all the time. He's a big hunter. So I mean, he's very much in mountain shape. But he'd have his hunting pack on with just, I don't even know how much weight he'd have in that pack, and he had a steep hill in his backyard. It would just be rucking. I mean super steep. Like he would just be rucking that hill with his backpack on over and over again, or to be on a treadmill, right? Rucking that pack on a treadmill with whoever knows how much weight in it. And so, I mean, was it just as simple as quote unquote working out, or what were you doing that winter to try and get ready?
I wish I knew to do that. I do for getting ready for that winter. In cross country and track, it's a different kind of workout, right? You're fit. You're working out towards your specialty, whether it's high jump or the hurdles or whatever it is that you're doing, the pentathlon. Anyway, so yeah, there's that aspect of working out, and that was kind of for me, I just was run. This is a running crew. Hobart, Tahoe Hot Shots, they're a running crew, so you're going to run. So I focused a lot on that. What I should have been doing was a buttload of squats and pull-ups and the whole 9 yards, because I went from I think I probably weighed $125, maybe walking onto that crew, and when I walked off, I was $160. So muscle right there, muscle. You need, yeah, he's got his pack on his back, and that's no lie. That pack probably weighs between 35 and maybe 50 pounds, if not more. Depends on if he's a sawyer and he's, wanting to pack a saw on his crew, then that's even that's more weight. There's fuel you got to take into consideration. Crew members are packing in 5 gallons of, jerry cans of fuel. All of it. For PT on the hot shot crew that I was on, you've got your 35-pound pack plus a saw. Everybody's hauling a saw. And you're going switchback after switchback after switchback. You got people puking. You got people, but it's every day. That's not a one workout. That's an everyday workout. That's, you're running. It's very intense, but I would have definitely shifted gears and would have hit the weight racks rather than run miles. I'll tell you that. I could have used that extra. Could have used that extra legs for sure.
You were mentioning the different disciplines in track and field, and I just a quick plug. I just have to put it out there. Throwers are the best part of the track and field team, and then we're just gonna move on. Yeah, we're just gonna move on. But throwers are where it's at.
I appreciate throwers. I tried to throw one time and it didn't go very well. So kudos to all of you throwers.
and we tried to run. We tried to run once or twice, and that didn't go too well either. So.
Yeah, throwers don't like to run too much. Not even in warm up. They just they like to just look right past that, don't they?
We had a tradition with my school, and we would do it with other. So every time we had a meet with another school, we had a little tradition where we'd have a box of Twinkies and we'd do a Twinkie relay. And maybe this is common outside of my little school in my state, but so we do a Twinkie relay. So you'd have a full relay team of throwers, right? So each school would get 4 throwers for a 4x1, and you'd have your lead off, and they'd take a Twinkie, and they'd run their first 100, and you'd do a full handoff with a Twinkie, right? And then whoever
and then you just eat it.
Well, no, whoever ran the last leg, right? they'd have to cross the finish line. And then, as if sprinting 100 meters for a thrower wasn't enough, you'd cross the finish line. Then you had to unwrap the Twinkie. And the team that won was the team that obviously finished the 4x1, but then ate the Twinkie first. And so,
motivation.
yeah,
it's called motivation.
Yeah, so whoever ran your anchor, they also had to pound a Twinkie once they crossed the line, and that was about our extent of running, and it came with Twinkies. So
kudos, man! I'm telling you what, that works. Whatever works.
So fire, do you have any stories that you can share? Because I mean, for me, like wildland fire is it's so fascinating. And, if you haven't done this before, for those out there listening, if you haven't done this, go take some time and find some Instagram accounts or Facebook pages or news stories that show photos from the fire line with your wildland cruise. And I mean,
fabulous.
it's beautiful. It's incredibly beautiful, but also it's everything. It's beautiful. It's terrifying. It's scary. It's fascinating. I mean, it's all of it.
It is all of it. Story-wise, I don't know. I know that there are fabulous crews out there, but I'd have to say I was probably on one of the best, ever. And fabulous men. It was amazing, actually. I mean, of course, there was hard parts to that job, and I look at it now, and I just, those were learning experiences for me. One of the things as a woman in a man's world, and I say that, now I have to say that I have to watch my step, right? A woman in a man's world, because that'll going to get a lot of hairs up probably. But it's true, But I always felt that if I can't do it the way that the men do it, if I can't, if I'm required to do, if the men are required to do this, then the women should be required to do this if I want this job. So, it's the same. It's the reason why I never went smoke jumping. I knew I could never haul out the amount of weight that a man could. So I never even tried, even though that's a dream of mine. Like, that's my dream. But I knew that my body couldn't handle it. Same thing with being a hot shot. Same thing with working construction. Same thing with working on the North Slope in the freezing cold temperatures on a pipeline. Like, if the men have to do it, then, and that's what I want to do for my career, then I have to do it. So I have to show up. So that's one of the, I learned a lot of lessons. I've seen a lot of things, and I've been in a lot of different situations, and that's how I have to look at that. Like, I put myself there. That's where I wanted to be. That's what happened. Moving forward. So, amazing things on the fire line, aside from the crew that I worked with, amazing people. I would have to say that one of my most memorable was fighting fires in the redwoods, and it was around Halloween time, so I think it was probably before. But the glowing redwoods, I mean, that was amazing. Just walking in the woods and then hearing these redwoods fall. I mean, you could hear them fall from, oh my God, it was just, I mean, talk about scary. But walking up on a glowing huge tree that's just like pulsating like a pumpkin. I mean, that blows your mind. It's very cool. But yeah, fire is a phenomenal experience for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how much you're keeping track. So, I mean, this year they've had, again, I mean, obviously California probably every year since you left has set records for fires and whatnot. And I think this year maybe they did this when you were there, but they've been using basically fire blankets, right? So to cover the redwoods to try and save them from basically losing these ancient, huge old growth forests, to try and keep at least some of those large trees alive.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I do know that California's been burning. I get glimpses of the news and stuff, but I don't follow a whole bunch as far as that goes. But I do, I have some Instagram stuff that I watch and do all that. But I mean, part of it too, and I'm just speaking like they go to that extent to save a tree, and I get it. But, this is nature, and nature is going to run its course. So, as far as like protecting homes and doing all that, putting up a fire barrier. But, I mean, these redwoods have burned years before we were even alive, I mean,
Yeah.
they've seen their massive amounts of fires in their lifetime, So
Yeah,
I could see going to that extent to save a forest, but at the same time, it's like nature's going to take its course. It has to take its course. Whether it's we're going to have another ice age or whether whatever you want to call it. So I mean, not that there's not a need for firemen. That's not what I'm saying, because that's not what I'm saying. But it's definitely
Yeah, so episode 7, for those that haven't listened to episode 7 yet, which is kind of weird to say that because episode 7 isn't even out yet as Mary Kate and I are talking. But by the time this is out, if you haven't listened to episode 7
it will
yet,
be.
Yes, it will be out. And if you haven't, go listen to it. It's really good. That episode is with Megan Hanachek. She was on season 3, and she was is also in the forestry industry. And so she's a professional forester and biologist, and we kind of talked about that. There's this theory out there about wildfire, and basically is the more that we suppress, the worse it's going to get, because wildfire is a natural part of the world, and the more we suppress fire and fuel builds up, and so there's definitely something to that. Not to say that Megan agreed, but we did have a conversation about that, and basically that nature is going to find a way to take care of itself, and fire is one way that it does that.
Right, exactly. I hear. I agree. 100%.
Well, it sounds like you've done. You've worked on the North Slope. You've done construction, obviously fire. We'll kind of get into what you're doing now, but it sounds like you were not at all afraid of really, really hard work. What's up with that?
I don't know. I like a challenge. I don't know. I really like to. We laugh all the time. My girlfriend and I, in our older ages, we haven't had, and I have 3 young kids, and now I run a daycare business, and so oh man, it's been really hard to go work out or do something. So and we would just laugh. So I always tell her, when I go to take the trash out, I make it a workout. I mean, I lift the bag and I put it here and I do all these things with purpose. If I'm going to clean my bathroom, I'm going to clean it like I'm cleaning it like a workout. I do cleaning my floors. Everything I do. So I just, for me, I like a challenge. I like to challenge myself. I like to be pushed to the point where it's like, I can't do this, but yet I can do this. So just keep doing it. So that for me is, I don't know. And then, to like fire, for example, or, getting a job on the North Slope and working in the Arctic cold, that was really, that was a challenge, when it's freezing cold outside, to go outside and work in those elements. And it's not that I enjoy the work, but I enjoyed to be in that element or to be challenged that way, It's kind of like swinging a tool on a fire line. I mean, oh my God, it's like, it's so challenging and it's hard work, but at the same time, it's, can you do this? Can you get through one more day? And so I like that about work, and so now I run a daycare business. So I got kids in my home all the time, and that's the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, can I get through today?
I was just gonna say, some people out there might laugh from wildland firefighter to working on the lines on the North Slope to daycare, but I've got a couple of young kids too, and I'll tell you what, this is probably the hardest job you've ever had.
Yep, this is the hardest job I've ever had. Yes, and it is, and my kids used to attend daycare, and I used to work full time, and then when my youngest child's father decided he wasn't going to help with childcare costs, I had to lose my job, and because I couldn't afford childcare. And that's a sad state that our nation is in, but I'm sorry, I can't afford $2,000 a month in childcare because I have 3 kids going to childcare, I can't do it. I needed that help. And so I had to quit my job. And then COVID didn't help much either, you know, it kind of all spiraled down. But then, so I just said, what do people need? You know, what do people need? What do I need? I need childcare. So there's got to be other people that need childcare. So I do. I provide affordable childcare to the families that I cater to. And it is the hardest job that I've ever done. It's very challenging. So,
that's
and
cool.
I love it. I love my kids that I have here. I mean, I love my children too, but as far as the business goes, I have great kids. I have great families that come into my home every day and rely on me to take care of their kids. And it's very rewarding at the end of the day. And it's also the toughest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that's cool that you make a point to say affordable childcare. You obviously just mentioned that, you know, that was a struggle in your past. And so it sounds like you're making a concerted effort to make your current business accessible to people. Is that kind of what I'm getting there?
You are, yes. For me, it's not about if I can, with the amount of children that I am allowed to have in my home legally, if I can at least put a roof over my head with that amount of children financially, then that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for more. And at my rates, I could be asking for way more. And that's not what I want. And I don't want that because, not that I don't want better for my kids to have more money in my pocket, which I wish I could win the lottery tomorrow. But the fact is that everyone's so greedy, you know, and everyone wants more and stuff. And, you know, coming from not having anything just a few years ago to, walking into a secondhand store with literally a roll of pennies and picking up forks and towels. Towels is a big one. If you guys have used towels and you don't want them anymore, take them to a secondhand store. But and paying with pennies to now having a roof over my head to and providing for families so that they can go and work and put food on their table. You get what I'm saying? And we can't do that by being greedy. We have to be able to give up a little bit and help out to everybody so that we can stay human. I mean, really, literally, we have to look at each other and, you know, look at how much we've lost in the last 2 years to COVID. You know, what is life really all about?
Yeah.
You know, you have to think about that. And it's not about money, because you're not going to the grave with money. You're, these kids need happy, healthy homes, happy, healthy parents. So anyway, I don't know if any of that made sense.
No,
Bottom line is,
the reason why I'm just sitting here quietly is like, I just, there's like so many things going through my mind right now as I'm, just, first of all, anyone who knows me, so many of my family and friends that are listening that know who I am, they know that I'm like I wear my emotions on my sleeve, right? So the reason why I'm sitting here quiet is I'm just sitting here in awe. I mean, that's a really, first of all, you've come from interesting and amazing places, but then to have such a sense of community, I guess, is what it is to be, just to help. Obviously you need to take care of yourself, but so yeah, no, it makes perfect sense and it's incredible.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just, sometimes I wish that people just take a step back and just, I know a lot of the Alone show is about people that live in the woods and survival and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, it's survival and within our communities, and there are a lot of people that need a lot of help. So
yeah, and that kind of,
you just got to open our eyes. And I'm not one, I'm not the person that goes out and saves the world, but if we can each do our little part, then our little parts turn into big parts, and next thing you know, we're helping each other, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, most of us can't go and save the world, right? But we can certainly help our neighbor or help our family members. It starts somewhere. But I think I have a question. So obviously you kind of went through where you've lived and where you're at now. And so you have a penchant for small places. Do you think that living in these smaller, tight-knit communities, and especially I'm assuming up in Alaska, there's a lot more dependence upon each other for certain things and at certain times of year. Do you think that living in those types of communities has impacted your viewpoint on those types of things as far as helping others and trying to take just what you need and not more?
I wouldn't say no. My take on what you just said there, taking what I need and not more of what I want, comes from my situation with my youngest daughter's dad 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago after the show. It comes from that mostly. It comes from having a lot of happiness, happy-go-lucky things go on in my life, and then having my world turned upside down and putting my kids in a position where it could have been a lot worse, and losing everything. And there are so many people out there that, sorry.
No.
I don't try to think about it much. So there's just a lot of, I want to point a finger at people and be like, fuck up, or come on, let's do this.
Yeah.
So, that's where that comes from. Having to regroup and seeing the love of like my parents and my older girls' dad and specific friends that have stepped up and helped out. Without those people, without that kind of love, without unconditional sorts of things, my life would be a lot different. So I think that for us as a society and as a whole, just even our little small communities, like you said, like if a small community, I can probably make more of an impact by doing little in my small community than I would in a larger community, but I think if everyone just kind of just gives a little bit,
Well, I'm gonna try and keep myself together here because we're gonna devolve into a mess here. It's awesome that you've been able to take your experiences and take probably the worst experience of your life or the hardest experience of your life and turn it into something that has given you a completely different and seems like, at least in this area, a healthy and productive viewpoint on life and on your role in your community and in the world and with those around you.
I'm hoping so.
Well,
I really hope too that my girls don't ever fall into that pattern. So anyway, okay,
well,
moving on. We are definitely just moving forward.
Yep. Last thing, and then we'll move on. You mentioned you hope your girls don't get there, and I hope for other people that your girls don't get there because I get the feeling that you would not take that lightly. So good on you.
No.
That's a bad day for somebody.
That's a bad day for somebody for sure.
So you mentioned working on the North Slope and I'm fascinated by that. What were you doing? I mean, it sounds like you were working on the pipelines. What were you doing up there?
Yep, I worked on the pipelines up there at Prudhoe Bay. I would say I was a sheet metal worker, but I really wasn't. I was a field fab sheet metal worker, which it's just so the pipeline itself, after all these years, is corroding, right? So they go in with these crews, and they have a stripping crew, and the strippers go in and take all the metal off the outside. They remove the insulation off the pipe, and then they buff it, and they're looking for pipe density for leaks, right? So, and then the crew that comes in after that to fix it up and to sheet metal, it's like a sheet metal. They slap it over the top and put these bands on it and use a bander to band it down. And sometimes there's some screwing going on where you got to screw up 90s or 45s or something. Anyway, I was on that crew where we re-insulated and sheet metaled the pipeline and caulked it down from weathering and all that kind of stuff. So
the sheet metal is the sheet metal there to protect the actual pipe that's running the crude?
Yep.
Okay.
Right. So it's we're called GMTs, just general maintenance technicians. I guess is what they call that position. But yeah, that was a interesting job while it lasted. I was up there a couple years.
And I mean, so that pipeline, I mean, that it's not like that pipeline is running through like it's not running through populated areas, right? So, I mean, assuming that you spent some time in pretty remote places while you were doing that, or did you guys have different sections that you would work depending on what crew you were on?
No, every day was a different job, and every job site could, it changes like you work 12-hour shifts, so you're on 12 hours a day, so it changes all the time. Like you could be over here at this pipeline area, and then you're way over here on the different side of the field doing this job over here. So yeah, up at Prudhoe Bay, there's all kinds of everything up there as far as where the oil's going and to different sites, and so we just kind of follow that pipeline where they think there needs to be attention. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
I was just curious because I know that pipeline, right? There's places on that line that are pretty remote. And so were you ever working in the remote locations, or were you more, I mean, what did that look like for you?
No, very remote. It's all very remote as far as like, I mean, you could be out at Whiskey Pad and you're way out there in the middle of nowhere, So we never left Prudhoe Bay and was shot down towards, through, south through Alaska or any of that. There's other crews that do that. So we were up just Prudhoe Bay area, Dead Horse area up there, and just worked on any of those pipelines up there that needed attention. But I mean, the wildlife, that's so incredible up there. The muskox and the polar bears I never did see a polar bear, but the muskox and the wolverines and the caribou and just the wildlife, the birds. Oh my God, it just blew your mind. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, talk more about what it's like up there, like as far as in Prudhoe you're on. I mean, you're right at the end of the world as far as the United States. I mean, you're at the end of the world. I mean, what's it like? I mean, just do you miss it? Was it kind of to me it seems like a place that would be kind of a haunting part in a way that you just couldn't ever really get out of your mind. What's it like living up there?
We lived in the Connex boxes. Oh my God, it's seriously, it's true. No, there were some camps up there, other, just depends on what crew you're on and what you did. But anyway, living up there was either you lived in a man camp or you lived in a man camp Connex box. Very interesting. They cook for you. Your lunches are provided. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. It's just, it's just a work field force up there where people are just rotating in and out. You're sleeping or you're working. Do I miss it? I wouldn't say that I miss the work at all. I think, we had some pretty good times. I mean, the crews are just, these guys are just, they're hysterical, I mean, I'm sitting in a truck with 4 other guys for hours on end, or I say sitting in a truck, but I mean, we live out of these trucks, all day, every day for 2 weeks at a time. And if not more than that, because you work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, right? 12-hour days. So it's insane. It is insane. One year I lost 17 pounds in a 3-week hitch. It was so cold. It was so cold, and it was the middle of winter, and there was no sunlight, absolutely zero sunlight this whole period of time. And I just, I disappeared under my clothes. I remember I had to take a urinalysis, so they had me, they had to be there while you take all your gear off so that they could make sure that you weren't hiding any pee so you could pass your drug test. And I remember standing in there, and it was my turn, and my supervisor was standing in the bathroom, and, so I'm taking off all my winter gear. So I'm taking off the first layer and the second layer and the third layer and the fourth layer. And he's, he's not watching, but he's just in the room there. They have, I don't know if they have to be, but anyway, so I get down to my last layer there, and he's like, okay, I'm stepping out of the room. But he was before I had to go to the bathroom, but he was like, I was taking all my layers off. He's like, where are you? Where are you? And I was like, I'm right here. And he's like, but where are you? And we were laughing because I had lost so much weight, and I was in all these clothes. They call it refrigerator gear, And I'm like, I swear I'm in here somewhere. And he's just laughing. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you eating? I was like, yes, I'm eating. I swear I'm eating. So I mean, it's just ridiculous. So it's pretty crazy little world up there. But just so you know, my supervisor was not in there when I was all the way. Just people might think that's kind of weird, but he just had to make sure I wasn't hiding any urine in my clothes. Anyway, it's a different world up there for sure. But I mean, it's interesting.
Did they fly you into Dead Horse, or did you have to take the Dalton all the way up?
No, it was my job to get myself from Homer to Anchorage, and then from Anchorage to Prudhoe Bay, they fly you up. Yep. So that's all it takes.
So you haven't had the privilege of driving the Dalton Highway then?
I have not driven it past. Well, I've driven to Fairbanks. I did take company truck out a few times and go through the gate and drive down south after work a couple times down the Dalton Highway, but only for about an hour or so past Dead Horse there. So no, I haven't actually driven it all the way. Haven't gone that far.
To me, it seems like I didn't realize that you'd spent time up there, and it just seems like such a beautiful and amazing place. Maybe not a place to live long term, but it definitely seems like it would be an amazing and fascinating place to visit. So on your time off, you probably just booked it straight home. Did you get much, I guess, free time in that area, or was it just all work all the time and then straight home?
No, it was all work all the time, but I think, you have 12 hours after your shift, to eat, sleep, and do whatever. But no, I didn't spend, there's really nothing really up there to kind of keep you hoed in, but I didn't do any of that, hang out, and no, pretty much did a lot of sleeping when I could.
Yeah, I bet. Well, Mary Kate, this has been absolutely fantastic. So as we kind of look forward, what do you think your future holds? Do you have any plans or anything you're working on, or it seems like you're in a really good spot, but what does your future look like, do you think?
My future is day by day, and I'm literally day by day. So it's just one day at a time. My goal is to make sure that my girls are happy and healthy and thriving, and that they're surrounded by good things in life. So I can't look past today. I have to one day at a time, because it's hard. I'm a single mom with 3 kids, and it's really hard. And I have a wonderful boyfriend right now, and he's been great to the girls, and so yeah, one day at a time is all I can offer you.
There you go. That's perfect. And do your girls enjoy being in Alaska?
They do enjoy being in Alaska. My youngest is 3, so we're still working on keeping them outside more, during like the cold winter months, just like anybody else. You know how it is when you bundle up kids and you get them outside and then it's freezing cold outside and they want to come back in. So we're still working on the winter sport thing, so that's coming up. But yes, they do. They love to be outside. They love to go to the beach. We spend hours and hours and hours at the beach. They do a lot of I would like to get my kids more in sports, but there's not a lot of that offered here. Like, they don't have access to a swim pool. They don't have access to, a basketball team at this age or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to when school sports kind of open up a little bit for my girls so they can get more exposure to that. But just because I want them to be on team things, where they're active. I need them to get active that way too. So, but yeah, the girls love to be outside. They have their tree fort, and we just got a new puppy. And he's super cute, and so they're loving that. And yeah, that's
what kind of dog did you guys get?
Oh, geez, people are gonna laugh at me. I'm a big dog lover, but I got a little dog. It's called a Cavadoodle. It's kind of, it's a mix between I say this wrong every time, a Charles Spaniel,
Yep.
Charles something Spaniel, anyway, and a miniature poodle. So, we
Otherwise,
went back to the daycare. I can't have little kids and big dogs and hairy dogs in my daycare, so we went with.
I think in Alaska that's referred to as wild animal food, right? So you got to be careful with that little guy.
Yep, that little guy is he's gonna have a great time. He's gonna be a great meal for an eagle. I did tell my daughter that the other day. She was out walking him, and I said, Bowden, the eagles will come down and eat him. No, I said, oh yeah, you watch. She's like, no, I don't want that to happen. I said, okay, you gotta keep a good eye on him. It's funny.
Well, maybe don't watch that part, but don't let him get too far.
Don't let him get too far. Yeah, it's funny.
Awesome. Well, Mary Kate, this has been such a pleasure. But before we wrap up and close it down, do you have anything else you'd like to share? Anything you want to set the record straight on, or any parting words before we wrap up today?
I guess I'd say hi to all the cast members that was on season 2. Hey guys, I hope that you're all thriving and life is good and everyone's healthy out there. And just all those survivalists out there, keep rocking it, have fun. And to those of you that are not thriving, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and start walking. So, yeah, it's a great life. I know that for sure.
Well, Mary Kate, thank you so much. And again, thank you for being willing to share your stories and share yourself. This has been absolutely incredible for me, and I've learned a lot, and this has been very fun. So I hope that things continue to go well for you, and we'll keep in touch, and just so grateful. So you have a great rest of your day and have fun with your family.
Thank you. I appreciate it.